So today we have the pleasure of Takaho Iwasaki, CEO and founder of MajiConnection, joining us to share her experience as a woman in technology. When I first approached Takaho to be our guest, she said, "But I don't code," in true Takaho fashion. To which I promptly reminded her that without her business skills, many tech projects would not have gotten off the ground. So for those who have been with us throughout the series, you have heard from other guest speakers in non-technical roles such as project management, digital marketing, operations, and customer service. Today, we will talk about her expertise in cross-border business development, partnerships, and the importance of understanding culture in technology. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Takaho to join us. Takaho, are you there?
Hi,
Hey,
hello.
hi, thanks for taking time to join us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're at the sandbox, correct? I saw you like 10 minutes ago.
Yes, you're downstairs. I'm
Yeah.
upstairs.
So we can do a quick shout out for the sandbox. Takaho, you have been here at the sandbox since 2019.
uh, yes, from July. So it's been like almost 2 years.
How are you liking it here?
I love it. Well, I mean, now everybody's work from home, right? I'm not the kind of person who can work from home because I'm easily disturbed. And my
Mm,
husband is working from home. So it's good to have my personal space here.
yeah.
And I'm always encouraged by the people around me working here. So it's good to be here.
It's great. So, I want to kind of ask you a couple of questions so that our audience can learn more about you.
Okay.
Let's start with, for a lot of our guests who are not from Hawaii, typically I like to ask them, tell us what brought you here to Hawaii and where did you come
Oh,
from, of course.
oh yes. I'm from Japan. So actually, I think I want to kind of talk about my background before why I came to
Sure.
Hawaii before because kind of connected story. So I was born in United States, Manhattan, New York, because at the time my parents were living in New York and my father was working big trading company, Mitsubishi Shoji, in New York. So luckily I could get the American citizenship. But the unfortunate part is that I had to leave New York when I was 6 months. So I don't remember anything. So after the born in New York, I moved to Kagoshima, which is very south area of Japan. It's actually southeast of Kyushu Island. And then I grown up there till I become 18 and moved to Tokyo to go to the university in Tokyo. And then I worked in Fuji Television, which is one of the biggest Japanese media in Tokyo. So my past career, my education is never about the United States, but I always wanted to be American because I was born there. So actually, I still remember when I was a kid, kids always drawing about the like what you want to be in the future, right? My dream was like to be American or
Okay.
corporate.
So what did you draw as an
Well, I
American?
mean, like me being like a bronze, I guess.
Oh,
I thought that's like a figure to me that's how to be American
yes.
because I didn't have any information about American people. Like I thought everybody was like a Tom Cruise or
Yeah.
something like that. So I was living in Japan for like 30 years, but then couldn't give up my dream to be American or go to United States. So I decided to quit my job and I decided to go to enroll the MBA program. To be honest with you, I really didn't care that which state I was going. I was thinking maybe like New York because that's where I was born. But it was my first time to move out from Japan. My parents a little bit worried about it, even I was 30 years old. And then, so I just kind of decided maybe Hawaii is the best place to go as the first, my American experiences. So I enrolled the MBA program in University of Hawaii. That's how I moved to Hawaii.
Hmm. And so that's quite of a journey from Japan to Hawaii. And doing your MBA here. So what made you stay on, or what made you not move to like New York or something?
Yes, actually, I was thinking to move to New York after my MBA. But then through the project of MBA, I met a lot of entrepreneurs or business people from small, medium-sized company here. Because here, most of them are small, medium-sized company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Japan has the same situation. 90, 80, oh no, I think 90% of Japanese companies are small, medium-sized company. And then my father actually running small, medium-sized company in Kagoshima, and he actually doing the tourism, running hotels and other stuff. So I felt since I was born, I've been seeing him working in this as the like CEO, working in this business industry and company. So I felt a lot of kind of sympathy with those people working in a small, medium sized company in Hawaii. But I seen very interesting that even it's same small, medium sized company, both in Japan and Hawaii. It says size is same, but that their mindset is very different. They operate very different from how Japanese small and medium-sized company doing. And I kind of started to see a lot of possible opportunity that if we can work together, those small, medium-sized company together, and then kind of try to innovate together, maybe we can create different type of economy. And I had a lot of experience in working big companies. So I mean, I was like, maybe it's time to move out from working in a big company, and I want to focus on a small, medium-sized company. That's kind of how I like decided to stay here to connect those businesses between Japan and Hawaii. And also, I got an internship in Bay Area one time, and I was there like a month, but I couldn't handle it.
There was that plug and play, right?
Yes. It was great experiences. Actually, I was recruited. Then I have many reasons, but I think my main reason why I can't live in mainland is like access to the rice is very hard.
Right. Is there a specific type of rice here in Hawaii that the mainland?
Well, I mean, we can easily get the Japanese rice. Nobody asks you bread or salad. People ask you brown rice, white rice. And I was too comfortable for that, and I couldn't handle bread culture in mainland.
Well, that's good. I mean, I'm happy that we managed to keep you here in Hawaii, and have you, help Hawaii small medium businesses grow and grow out of Hawaii, hopefully. So maybe can you just share with us, when you decided to stay on in Hawaii, and then you came back from your internship with Plug and Play. You started MajiConnection, am I correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what MajiConnection does?
Yes. So Plug and Play is accelerator that helping, of course, because it's venture capital, they're helping the startup to grow. Mm-hmm. Also, they help a lot of big company to connect with other startups. And then they have a lot of Japanese corporations as clients. And then while my internship, I've been seeing a lot of companies, a big Japanese company try to invest or do some joint venture with the startup. And I think it's such a great idea for Japanese company to innovate, to bring the American ideas or even not America's idea from outside of Japan. But the problem is they're having hard time to bring actual synergy because of the cultural differences. There's a language barrier also, but then more than that, it's just how Japanese people working is different from how the the Bay Area people working. Mm-hmm. So even the big company was struggling to work with American startup. So, and then my passion and my purpose is that I want to help small, medium-sized company. So how I can help the small, medium-sized company to match those startup, even the big company is struggling. So I thought Silicon Valley, Bay Area is such a good place, but I just don't, it's just too big and too different from Japanese perspective. So one of my idea is like, why don't we bring Hawaii, the ideas in Hawaii? So instead of Japanese companies or people have to go to Bay Area and they have to change everything, or for to bring those ideas, or they suffer. We have very good culture, mixed culture, with where the East meets West. So if we can have create those kind of platform or have in Hawaii, we can bring a both good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got the good benefits to eating rice still here, but I'm still working in an American environment. So why don't we take advantage in Hawaii as for the business standpoint?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I started in MajiConnection, to connect those American startup to Japanese companies. Also, I'm helping the Japanese startups to come to US. That's how I come up with this idea and company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But kind of coming back to your early career experience, you started out in the media and entertainment industry in Tokyo, correct? You said working for Fuji Television. Can you tell us about your experience there and how you develop skill sets that are applicable to what you're doing today?
Yes, well, it's going to be very too much to talk. I think the work environment was very different from American style, especially when I started working Fuji TV was 2006. So to be honest with you, there's a lot of like some harassing stuff, which were very common at the moment in Japanese business culture. And I think as a woman, of course, it's mainly dominated environment. Media company is like very dominated by men, same as tech. So I think I was like 2 or 3 women out of like 30 male team members.
Mm-hmm.
However, actually, I mean, it's so hard to explain, but at least the one thing I really lucky was like there's a lot of talent people, hard worker around me. So I think I learned a lot of like your hard work will pay for something to you in the future. I learned about a lot of communication skill, negotiation skill, because I was in the sales section. I had to do a lot of communication with advertising agency about the price of the advertisement or what kind of company wants to do like TV advertising and stuff. There's a lot of communication doing. So like I think a lot of how the Japanese business people working. Also time scheduling, like deciding priorities. Basically I've been working like 7 days like a week, and then I guess 26 hours a day. I feel that way even there's no any 26 hour day. I barely have any private life. It's like because TV broadcasting, we always have to handle with emergency, like Tohoku earthquake. Every day is like emergency, so it's you have to handle a lot of stuff. So like you're gonna get very good at to decide what the priority is, and I think that's maybe the skill set I learned a lot from Fuji TV.
Mm-hmm. Great. So have you always been, I mean, like that was in film, and entertainment industry. Have you always been interested in technology? What made you
Yes.
switch, from that industry to tech and startups and
Well, usually it's like I think media companies itself is not necessarily a tech company, but we use a lot of text, right? And then even we have our system is usually kind of like not high tech, but we use some technology to like type in the managing the clients and stuff. So I think I was pretty good at to using those technology. So if you have so much work in front of you, you can't spend so much time to learn how to use it. So I think I have been very good at to kind of like trying to touch it and like, okay, this is how it works. And I kind of easily learn how to use those technology. And I think since I was kids, I was always like that. My current parents always bought me like Walkman stuff since I was kid. So I'm comfortable to touching or using technology that I have no idea what it is. Also, as the media company, you always have to watch the trend. So you always have to catch up what's going on in Japan. Of course, what kind of advanced technology is happening? Because you always see those advertisements, right? Panasonic made this new like rice cooker, and this rice cooker speaks. They bring this software. Like I still remember when they did the Google advertisement first time in Japan, YouTube or so. I mean, good part of working media company, sales marketing, you always see what is like a big trend in Japanese market, and also and who is a competitor of who or those kind of thing. And then also as the single woman working in media company, living in Tokyo, you have to manage a lot of things, right?
Such as?
Yeah, well, technology always so like, you know, something good to learn, especially if you're working hard and then your life is busy, you have to utilize technology to live a life. Like, you know, even getting trained, what is the easiest way instead of you buy the ticket? Okay, let's use a Suica, like, you know, those like a payments system. So I think I've always kind of tech savvy for the user standpoint, also business standpoint.
Yeah. So, you know, I think this is sidetrack a little bit. Do you happen to know what are some of, the technologies that are kind of focused on right now in Japan? Whether it be AI or data, is there something where there's a large focus on from a technology perspective in Japan right now?
I think so. I think Japanese people really like, so if we're looking at the Japanese history, we become this innovative only like for 1878, where the Meiji Revolution happened, when the first big ship from United States when it arrived in Japan. That's kind of how we start the revolution, trying to develop the country since that. And then when you look in those like the history, how we actually become tech advanced country, we always kind of more creating side, making some stuff. So instead of we are more like software, we are better in hardware as in a country. I think in terms of the AI or data is more like software kind of technologies. I think we are very behind. But then, and also blockchain too. I think we're very behind, especially from United States and China. But you always need some kind of hardware that to actually input those software, right? I think that's kind of like the Japanese trying to kind of be like competitive. So I've been seeing a lot of like robotics, and then also like robotics plus AI. Also like kind of wearable thing. Game industry is always like kind of very advanced in Japan. Recently, Sony launched the PlayStation 5. Last year, Nintendo got a super good like revenue, the best revenues for 10 years or something because of the COVID. So I think that those contents, if we can utilize those contents, because we also have a very good animes, right? Anime and comics, always Japanese, it's always advanced more than the other country. So I think if we can utilize those contents and if we can have some ideas to software, I think we could be very competitive. But I don't think there's not any good AI or data thing. And I think if you anybody doing this the session, I'm not sure if everybody knows. So there's called NFT, non-fungible token. It's still like not many Japanese people know it, but then because it's about arts or comics or some creators, I think once the Japanese people kind of started to more interested in and join those programs, I think that could be also the one of the way we can be competitive too.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of, for the Japanese large companies that you help, what kind of, startups do they, look for here in the US?
Yes, I have so many startups who wants to come to Hawaii through Hawaii. One of the startups, so basically we have a lot of SaaS startup, as I said, so software as a service. So since we know that the software part is our weakness, a lot of startups try to start a new services and trying to be competitive, to be number one in Japan and be global. There's one startup, it's called Bakan. They actually started as the IoT and AI service that they can detect the crowdedness in the area. So they can display the information, hey, this restaurant has 20 minutes waiting, or, oh, this restaurant has available. So people actually can get those information in advance, so they don't have to make a line, or they don't have to go there and then they some point to go to other place. So they can actually, the facility can kind of make those people's traction efficient to go to like whole facility. This technology is very popular for the Japanese department store. They even use it for the bathroom, for the customer don't have to worry about to which bathroom they should go or something like that. I thought it's such a good idea to bring Hawaii, but the problem is that this is a very customer care improvement. So the department store installed this technology because they don't want a customer to uncomfortable by waiting or be disappointed to go to the crowded restaurant, right? So that's like very popular in Japan, but I think when I demonstrate to American people, they like, not like restaurant, like don't care about the customer service, but they're like, why we have to invest this money to feel like to improve a customer care? Like that's not their kind of like
the mindset, right?
Yeah, mindset.
So it's a difference in kind of maybe the customer care culture in a way.
Yeah. So this is back in one of the example, but I think I know it's gonna be changed a lot. Like, but then I think a lot of technology startups in Japan, they build it in the Japanese motivation. So sometimes it's not gonna work out. You have to educate those customers from beginning. There's a lot of biotech startup too, and there's a one startup.
Oops, I think we lost Takaho there for a moment.
A very hard worker that she can actually make the organic ethanol from like any kind of waste food. And actually through the waste food process, she will have the waste from making the organic ethanol. She can actually utilize it, feed those waste to the chicken. So she doesn't have any waste.
I see.
So she created this technology and very successful. She made a lot of fancy cosmetics, corporate with JR, a lot of big cosmetic company. So yeah, I've been seeing a lot of interest in tech.
Coming out of Japan, right?
Yes.
How about the other way around? I mean, like for the large Japanese companies looking for US startups, what kind of US startups are they looking for?
Very depends on the industry. I know insurance company are very, very keen to those American startups because they need a lot of data, right? And they usually, as I said, in terms of data, Japanese is not necessary. Like it's just easier for them to find as good in American or Israel. So I know like insurance company, deal with, and actually I think that they made a lot of deals. I know a lot of big trading company. We call the four big trading company, Itochu, Mitsubishi Shoji, like for big company. They are so keen to sustainable industry, especially like a sustainable energy standpoint. And then, well, I think I know the bank is trying to get a more fintech, but I know they are having hard time because the bank regulation in Japan is very different from international, and also very strict, very old. They made like 60 years ago and never changed. So it's just so hard for them to bring American fintech to Japan. Yeah, sorry. I mean, I can't. There's too many.
That's great. That's great. You know, I was just really curious. But let's go back to you and your story. So, you know, even before MajiConnection, right? You kind of already dabbled in entrepreneurship, right, through your family business and so on. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that, and you know, if that kind of contributed or fueled your passion for entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, so as I said, my family, my father is running a business, hotels in Kagoshima, and then it's very typical all the Japanese business-owned company, where that my father is the first, third generation, and then my brother is going to be the fourth CEO, and then American people always surprise this, but we have the house rule that only the oldest son can take over the company.
Oh, okay. So you're not even in the running.
I don't have any authority or right to take over, but I can help them, but I can't take over. I cannot be the CEO. So it was very interesting. I mean, I never ever jealous of my brother. Well, my brother thinks it's his obligation to take over. And then he's jealous of me because I can do whatever I want because I'm a woman. So how do you say it? Well, it was kind of interesting to work in this environment, like, because my father is like born to be CEO, right? And then so I don't know, like, I mean, for those entrepreneurship, I never want to be entrepreneur. Like, I never want thinking to make a company, but it just being an entrepreneur is more easier way to help my family company or to be independent as a Japanese woman, rather than working one of the employees, if it makes sense. So I don't have to feel the pressure for being a woman. I don't have to worry about what's the role in that like company. I can just do what I want. I just can be myself. If I become entrepreneur, if I become founder, I can decide myself because I have my responsibility for my decision. So it's just a natural way for me to be entrepreneur.
And you can
also
select your projects.
Yeah. I know how hard to be a businessman or a business owner or being entrepreneur since I was born, because I've been seeing whole my family is working in this one company. My grandfather, my auntie, everybody, right? So I never even imagined about me being a housewife or not working as a career. Yeah.
Is your family supportive of, you know, you and your endeavors?
Yes and no. Well, they were very worried I was single. I didn't marry, but now I got married. So
congratulations.
They shut up. They just let me.
business that you do and run your company now that you're married, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's great. So I think what is interesting about MajiConnection is that, it seems like a very successful outcome of how, you went through this process of identifying a niche, right? And the kind of value that you can bring. How, can you just walk us through that process? Like, how do you spot an opportunity where you can actually create, a company around it?
To be honest with you, there's no process. My family has run in a small, medium-sized company. And then I just found out that existing technology is not helpful for them. There's a huge gap between those tech company and then small, medium-sized company, like 60 or 70 years old guys running the company. So one of the example I would use is that, Japanese people still use facsimile instead of email. A lot of small, medium-sized company. So how we can teach them to use a Google Doc, even they don't use email? So that's my question. And I just need a more technology to fill the gap instead of the technology only for the tech-savvy young Bay Area young people. So I've been calling this island innovation, what like those GAFA or those big tech or Uber, they are made for metropolitan and continent people. But as in Japanese, also as the person who wants to help more small, medium-sized company in islands like in Japan, Hawaii, I need a technology to more suitable for countryside and then islands. So that's kind of how I process my idea.
Yeah, so I mean, you started this thing called the Island Innovation Demo Day, right? That was one of the first things I heard of when, I actually joined HTDC about a year and a half back. And, it has evolved, especially with the pandemic as well. You couldn't do it in person. So maybe, you can share with us what Island Innovation Demo Day is and, what does it, and also explain to our audiences, what exactly do you mean by island problems?
So I started the Island Innovation Demo Day that there's two reasons. As I said, I really want to look for more the technology that's suitable for islands, such as energy, because usually the energy fee is very high in islands. Japan has also a nuclear energy program or human resource program. Usually countryside, they are always lack of the human resources, the young power. So to fill those human resources or high aging, of course, both in Hawaii, Japan's high aging problem, low birth rate is a very serious problem in Japan. And especially Japan doesn't have any immigrants too either. So I really want to also the tourism. A lot of countryside of Japan highly depend on the tourism. But to me, tourism is like, it's good to have temporary money, but you always have high risk where like, COVID-19, some kind of disease happen. It's very volatile, depends on the market. So I always think, because my family also runs a tourism business, I always think we have to diversify tourism or to innovate the tourism itself to more sustainable for the more economic reason. So the tourism, human resource, also medical, which is related to high aging problem. So that's the first reason why I started Island Innovation Demo Day. Second reason why I want to do this is that as in Japanese, when I'm looking at those Japanese people coming in Hawaii, they never even tried to communicate with local people. And also they just hanging out with only Japanese people. We have so many Japanese tourists coming in, but they don't talk to the local businesses. They don't even try to get to the local business. They don't even know the local business exists. I still remember one of my friends told me, "Oh, is there a bank in Hawaii?"
Yeah.
They think it's just the ocean and like just restaurant and so only tourism still. But there's a lot of people making working as a farmers. There's a lot of interesting startup coming in. So I really want to connect those Japanese investors and the Japanese business people who might be interested in investing or have some kind of joint venture with local Hawaii startups or small kind of business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Island Innovation Demo Day is where that I introduce American startups, mostly Hawaii startups, to pitch their idea to Japanese investors. And then that's how I started Island Innovation Demo Day.
And then you kind of turned the whole model around, right, with the pandemic late last year and early this year. Do you want to share about that?
Yes, so 2020, I was planning to do like a bigger one because first event was very successful. But since the COVID happened, I can't have any Japanese people to be here physically. So we decided to the online version for the Hawaii startup to introduce. Also, through this Island Innovation Project, I got a partnership with Dentsu. Dentsu is the Japanese biggest marketing company. But then they kind of also want to help or more getting involved with the startup culture. So they also want to introduce Japanese startups to Hawaii. So right now, Island Innovation Demo Day is not only for Hawaii startup to pitch, more like also we introduce Japanese startups for Hawaii people and then American people.
And how has the response been for that?
It's been good. There's a lot of interesting synergy happening. I think there's more Hawaii startup. They're always looking for funding. I'm trying to find the good investors for them. And then for Japanese startups, since they have kind of enough funding all the time, they are more like looking for the local partners to work with them as a joint venture here. And I think I'm being connecting a lot of local companies with them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But I think it's very interesting, exciting to see how those synergy happening.
Mm-hmm. So you are also part of the, what we call the True Initiative. That's also, an organization that's supporting this whole series. Do you want to do a shout out? You're on the committee for the True Initiative. So do you want to kind of just do a quick shout out on what that is about?
Yeah, True Committee is the public and private organization. We're helping the local companies and the residents to become a little bit more tech friendly. And also we wanted to try to help the people here to kind of more like work in the tech industry. The whole purpose is to more like a little bit to resident quality life, increase the average income, that kind of stuff. And then mostly, I mean, maybe I'm not the best person to explain what they're doing, but mostly my product here is because I'm from Japan and I am fluent in Japanese. I'm helping those like bringing more Japanese companies or bringing more ideas from Japan, keep updated to what's going on in Japan to those people. So if it makes sense.
Yeah. So, we talked a lot about the different things you do and helping Hawaii from from a tech perspective. So, what do you enjoy most about entrepreneurship or, being an entrepreneur?
I can decide anything. It's my timing to decide. It's my decision to make. It's my responsibility to take. So I really like it, and then usually when I was working in a Japanese company with my father or other people, it's not a bad thing, but then their decision-making process is very slow. But I don't have to wait for them. Also always exciting. It's as I explained, I always change my career. I'm looking for new things all the time. So I can get to know all the new things. I can meet with new people all the time. It's so exciting to kind of actually, I feel like I'm doing something new or something different from other people. So that's how like I really like and enjoying.
So, we got a question from the audience, and it ties in really well actually with my other question. But basically, it's all about challenges, right? So, what are some of the challenges you face or barriers that you face as, women in technology? That's one, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay. I think, well, if I talking about an experience in Japan, I think I never feel discrimination from my work office or my work environment, but the social pressure on women is more challenging for women to be entrepreneur or working in tech industry. So I know a lot of like talented entrepreneur from Japan. Mostly they're perfect English and they have very high career. And then they used to work in big company, their background is perfect. And but they still have to be perfect mother.
So you're talking about female entrepreneurs in Japan, correct?
Yes, yes. So I felt like as a woman, I feel like I always have pressure that like even I'm trying to make hard about my career, the business, they like, oh, you have to get married. Oh, you have to have kids. Like, and then like if I go that way, and then maybe if I'm not working so hard, they're like, oh, you just being housewife. Like you have to work, you have to make money. This is 2021. So those pressure on women, I don't know about other Asia, but I'm pretty sure in the other Asia situations are very similar. It's very challenging for me that like, okay, why I have to be perfect all the time? From my family, from my friend, and from social. Luckily, there's not much pressure in Hawaii, but then I think I still a lot of women and people working tech, they have the same feeling and pressure from the social. And I think that's the most challenging that I feel. And I have to, I really want to help those women.
So how do you personally address those challenges? I mean, leaving Japan is one thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's why I love Japan. Well, it's very hard. I don't even know if I'm actually handle with it. I'm just maybe running away or, well, at least my friend around me is very supportive. And I think young people has changed a lot of mind. I mean, if I talk to young people in Japan, their mind is a little bit changed. So I'm really happy to see people changing the mind. And just, go to girls' dinner and drink wine and forget. Maybe it's not a good solution.
Yes, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So do you have any plans? You talked about helping, or you have a desire to help other women kind of get through those societal pressures.
Yeah, actually, we try not to do make the fund or micro VC in Hawaii. Because from my experience, I know there's a lot of Japanese potential investors that want to help Hawaii startup and invest in and bring capital, but there's no platform that we can stimulate, facilitate. So me and my friends and also my husband tried to make the basic venture capital here to bring those Japanese money into invest startups in Bay Area and also Hawaii. I think when we started to do that, I really want to focus on those startups they're having hard time to raise the capital because they're minority, or could be their service are not so not understandable for majority people, like female tech or Asian tech. I don't know how there's existing Asian tech, maybe making rice from 1 minute or something like that. So yeah, and then so I know I'm not sure how we're gonna like make the framework, well, what kind of vertical target industry we have, but that definitely we want to help those startups
by providing more, I think, easier access to funds and right resources, I guess.
Also education, the educating women how to actually raise the capital. So that's also our mission.
Okay, so if any of you listening out there and you want to be part of this project or you think you can help, definitely reach out to Takaho at MajiConnection, to see how you can assist. We have another question from the audience. The person's asking, do you have any mentors or any female figures who you look up to as role models? And if so, what qualities do you admire in them?
I think my boss, when I was working Fuji TV, she's kind of mentor to me. She was like, I think one of the few female boss. And then she was very good at communication. I think she's like 30 years older than me. I know, like, even I had a very bad experience as a woman to work in a male dominated company. I know, I can't imagine how hard she had. And I know a lot of male employees was complaining about her. Oh. But she never gave up. She just does what she trusts and she believes. She doesn't care what the other people say. Well, she actually cares. She's very strategic to how to behave and what kind of person she should be, friendly or not friendly. So I think she's like always role model to me. Like, I mean, you shouldn't give up because you're a woman.
Yeah. So she was your role model, during the younger part of your career, I guess, in a way, and has stuck with you all this time. It's great.
Yeah.
So do you have, what kind of advice would you give for other people who are looking to entrepreneurship?
I think, like, don't be afraid. Like, it's very tough to be entrepreneur on a working tech company, like especially male dominated. But then, like, if you're not afraid, if you try, I think in the end you're gonna be enjoying it. So, I mean, don't be afraid. Like, even you're different from other people, and maybe people saying about you different way, but don't be afraid. That's kind of what I want to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So have courage in a way, I guess. So yeah. We know each other outside of work and so on. What is one thing that people will be surprised to learn about you?
I'm enjoying everything. Like, I'm very good at enjoying everything. I am very good at exciting anything. Even though some problem thing happen, I kind of make fun of it. Like, so, instead of complaining, like, if you can make everything funnier, exciting, enjoyable, you will enjoy, and then you find a way. But that's kind of like my how I actually survive.
Function. So having like a positive mindset in a way, right? Positive approach.
Yeah. Positive. Well, positive humor could be negative. Sometimes. Huh?
And having kind of a sense of humor about everything.
Yes, yeah. I think that's a good way. Sorry. Yeah, being humoristic. Like, even being negative sometimes good. Just, but enjoy being negative. That's what I would say.
We have another great question here in the Q&A. This person's asking, can you talk a bit about how you approach and build connections with the new startups? The person through your website and found that you don't have a lot of social media channels. So
I don't.
yeah. So what is your main approach to engage? Well, I guess there are two questions. One is how do you make connections with new startups? Second, what are your main approaches to engaging with your audiences?
First, how I'm gonna find a startup is like, luckily I have a Dentsu as a partner who has a wider network in Japan. So usually, maybe especially with their name, if I approach the startup, like they always willing to open their mind. Also, everybody loves Hawaii, so they're like, oh, Hawaii, I would love to. So Hawaii is very important to approach them because they want to come to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
Third, I mean, I'm trying to listen to them instead of like explaining. So like, you don't know what they have, you don't know what they're good at. So I always try to ask a bunch of questions. And so the second question, if I have answer, I think how to engage the audience. I try to make everything simple. Like a lot of people, especially I think Japanese people tend to make everything complicated, and because they look smart or they I don't know. But I think even like, they want to use very difficult words, they want to use their knowledge that they have. But I think the way I approach my audience or whatever, when I have a connection, I always try to use example to explain what it is, or just don't make it complicated. They're not going to understand. If they don't understand, it's your fault that you didn't understand, you couldn't explain. That's how my approach. So if the customer audience got frustrated, how I can improve it instead of it's their fault to not to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how usually I approach to my audience or clients.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think being kind of bilingual, right? You are more sensitive in terms of how information is being communicated from,
Yes.
across different cultures and different languages and so on, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, language is a very difficult part. And then especially English, Japanese, it's not only just language differences, it's the context is very different. The structure is very different. Japanese is a high context culture where the listener has more responsible to understand context. For example, we don't use a subject, we just eat. So listener have to assume who is eating. While the English, then the speaker has always responsible to let the listener to understand.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be very specific to explain what it is to the listener.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm using two language, I'm always be careful of, okay, this language is this and this language this, so I should explain this way. So I always, maybe not for this, but usually when I do events or communication, but I'm very careful for how those people, what kind of background he has, what kind of content he has or she has. That I'm always be careful about that.
Awesome. So we are running, close to 3. But before we let you go, Takaho, I have one final question that I always ask every guest. Give us one word you would like to leave the audience with today and why.
Exciting, because working in tech industry, being entrepreneur, sometimes like you have to do so many new things, and it's too much information, too much update. Innovation is always something like you be scared. But I think in the end, everything is so exciting. Like I never get bored working as an entrepreneur. So don't forget be excited. That's kind of I wanted to give to everybody.
Awesome. I think that's a great way to, keep the momentum and the like you said, the excitement in the new developments in technology, whether it be Hawaii, Japan, or cross-border. But again, thank you, Takaho, today for taking the time to speak with us. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors and with our projects together. And thank you for what you're doing with all that you're doing to facilitate tech adoption here in Hawaii. So for the attendees,